Now you see, we come on to the next thing. We have to display these. Now I'm taking this as the third stage. Now we'll have to come over here for this one, you see. I haven't dealt with all of them yet, but, you know, in the third stage, we've got these job cards, and we've got them completed, okay? And we've got a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Supposing we have a very slow learning class that we don't anticipate will read too well, and we want to give them some work that has an outcome because they deserve it. I can help decode a bit here, but I can also test on who will attempt it. Who's starting to be confident, you see? Can I protect them into risk-taking? Will you take a chance and see if you can read that? They certainly are going to have power to influence because they're going to arrange the job card window. Now, a high-order thinking class, capable of thinking quite complicatedly, can do the second stage, which is display them according to classification of skill, not label. It's not the label, it's the skill. If I want a job and I'm, let's say I'm fast on my feet, I'm strong to lift things, there might be 6 jobs I could do in that hotel because it's the skills I have that I want to be seen altogether. And they can say to me, well, this is a range you possibly might be interviewed for. Would you like us to put you down for this and send you up to the hall with an appointment card, and so on and so on. So, if we take a special needs class, and we're thinking of a full class endeavour, they're all doing it with me helping. The first thing is, obviously, they can have these, not too many, 1 between 2, and so on, and it may well be some have fewer skills than others, so there's less reading. Now then, what we're going to do is arrange these in the job centre window. Now for that I obviously need a board. I need the means to stick them up. This looks obvious, but you can't be leaving them and while you wander around and think, oh dear, I didn't have this, this and this. You can't have pins. You can't have drawing pins. If you do, you've got to watch how things can be handled. It's a special needs class. What do you use then? Do you put the job card thing down here and we make the window like this? How important is it to have a window shape and have job centre? If we have job centre, I can make the window with the children. It's a drawing exercise. They can colour it there, she can colour it there, he can colour it there. We can all colour in the frame. And then we have to write, now let's see, I don't, job. So I can not be too good at writing myself and get them to spell it. I'll give them feedback all the time here on it. So we've got job centre. Well, we've now got to translate job centre onto there. It looks a waste of time, but it's processing to confidence. But it's a strain because you're keeping everybody going on it if you possibly can. And we know that in 2 short words like that, there's only about 7 turns. I don't know how many words there are, how many letters in job centre. We then have the arrangement. We want it so that people feel when they come in here, we'll be helpful. We want it so that it looks interesting. Do we want to put any arrows to it? Are there any jobs that are more for women than for men? You get into sexism with this one, of course. But some jobs are better in the hands of women. There are 1 or 2 that might be. I mean, there might be a creche listed on the thing. I'm not saying men can't look after a creche, but a creche is quite a complicated skill one. So there might be a fair lot of writing on there for them, you see. But what we can do is underline the words we think are important. Now, they may not be able to all do it for themselves, but I can do it with all the class for one. And the identification of the word, with talking about the word, with underlining the word, there's a chance it'll be recognised again. So what they'll end up with, you see, is they'll have made a job centre window. Now, if you want that same class to consider, their third task may well be to consider, when people come and look at our window, what's the best way to talk to them to help them feel they could go a bit further with this? What sort of language are we going to do? How shall we arrange this place? This is practical, thinking about, but it may end up with some rules for staff. When you see somebody outside looking a bit hesitant, do you rush in and rush out, pull them in by the hair and say, come in, you need a job? Or do you sort of look at them carefully? Now that's where you might, I know it's daft, but it's dimension teaching. You see, you need a load of pictures from picture books, photographs of people. If you saw somebody looking like that, wanting a job, what might your mode of approach be? And they don't all have to be miserable people, for goodness sake. I mean, how would you approach somebody coming straight from school and they're looking for their first job and they're standing, you know, in their whatever shoes you'd wear if you were 18 and you were waiting to go to college, or you were 16 and you'd left school? What mode of approach? I mean, are you going to send Mrs. Heathcote out? Or would one of you think you'd handle it better? Well, I'm sure they'd prefer to handle it themselves. Now, I may play some of those roles. All I simply would do is have the demeanour. They could teach me who they think are the sort of people who need jobs. If I'm an ex-miner, I'm thinking of mining because of the problems at the moment. What is there in this window? We've heard this, it's in the air the whole time. You know, what would you think to offer him maybe a hairdresser's franchise, or would he be better as a night watchman, or what might you talk to him about? How will you talk to him about this, you see? And pictures, looking at pictures, maybe, well, what you'd take as the next circumstance. So you see, they could become expert at helping people interview. Now, if you ever get the chance to put two classes together, that's the two classes you might put together. So that you might have a very considerate fourth year that you know won't talk down to the special needs people, and who will enable the special needs people to become more confident in approaching written things. The fourth year, or whatever they might be, might have to say, will you help me just write this down, then I remember it. How do I get to Challoner Hall? Now you see, how to get to Challoner Hall, the children will be then looking at the map. They've never had to look at this map before. They've been in a job centre, for goodness sake. Now in this one, of course, I've kept it with one class. Their written material would be eventually to make guidelines for job personnel, that these are the skills that you need if you run a job centre. And if you are personnel interviewing for a hotel, these are the skills you need so that people do their best at interview. So they will produce, they might produce it with you scribing for them, or they might produce it with another form scribing for them, or they might do it themselves with pictures, because the most you can get out of them, the more you want. And as long as the thing has a rigorous look to it, not anything will do, because this is going up to personnel. Now, are you beginning to see something of the the way recycling works, you see. Now this lot, you see, don't have to have those sort of concessions. This lot can look much more closely at how do you set up a job centre so that when people come, they feel here might be work. And how do you efficiently present them with material, you see. And this one is a writing exercise, drafting advertisements to suit the Daily Mirror, drafting advertisements to suit the Independent. That means a lot of reading, and that's, well, it would go right up. But 11-year-olds could do it, you know. Of course. They only need a few advertisements from different papers cut out so that they can recognise this style isn't quite like that, and so on. And that is recycling.